Well, how are you doing out there in YouTube land? I tell you what, you are at Jazz at Noon from Linke's living room, but we're going to interrupt our consistent flow of our episodic adventure and go into the realm a little bit of show and tell, if you want to call it that. And what this is, I think, on my part and on my buddy Victor Campbell's part here on the drums, is an effort to reach out a little bit to the people that don't really have a clear understanding of what's going on when people are playing jazz music and improvising. So we're going to drill down on a very essential part of this. Again, a little caveat here, a little disclaimer. This isn't for those of you who are jazz aficionados and are jazz musicians, or for that matter, are even practicing musicians of any kind. Because what we're going to discuss is kind of universal truths about improvised music. Let me take that word back, not universal, but ubiquitous, I think. It's pretty much common knowledge. However, if you haven't been exposed to some of this common knowledge, this might actually help people have a better listening experience. So once again, that's what I'm focusing in on. We're not going to get too deep beyond the rhythmic idea of form, F-O-R-M, form. You find form in architecture, you find form in visual arts, you find form in all of the disciplines, engineering, a lot of things, right? And certainly within music. We define a form as a construct, a length, if you will. Everybody is familiar with the length of a tune. So some people measure that length in their conscious mind by singing through the tune from beginning to end, and that's how they know that the form is complete, when they complete the section of vocalese, as in a refrain or a verse, etc. Some people would figure how to define that length of time or form in a harmonic structure. So people use words like chords and changes and harmonic accompaniment. That's another way, because if you go through, a sequence of chords, and the first sequence of chords we're going to start off with is something called the blues, but I'll get right back to that. You have the structure to relate the form to. That is, again, the sequence of chords from beginning to end. Now, you can also simply have the rhythmic content of that form, the rhythmic length of that form. And we, as jazz musicians, yeah, you're gonna say, we as fill in the blank, yeah, jazz musicians, we got a chuckle from our audience. We are very attuned to that rhythmic side of the definition of form. And we are also, for the most part, our music is defined by a steady time or a steady beat. So this isn't about slowing down or speeding up. This is about defining that space with a clear substructure, and that the most essential part of that substructure is the beat. So everybody knows what a beat is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, ba, da, da, da. Yeah, boom, bam, right? That's the beat. That's constant. And that's what you dance to, by the way. Dance is another great example of where form is utilized in the choreography. So, and I equate real strongly with that idea, with the idea of dancing, because dancing tends to come in our Western world in even numbers of beats, which can be broken down into even number of measures. Measures are just groupings of beats. mainly what we're going to be talking about is 4 beats per measure. So everybody here, including you, Brandy, has got me so far, right? You know about beats and measures? Yeah, see, people, I know a lot of you know about these essential things. So I think we can kind of group onto that and make a definition out of this that can be serviceable for those of you who are trying to get yourself to maybe get more involved with jazz music and hear it on a next level up. So back to the idea of rhythmic form. So we have this consistent beat. We're going to break that beat up into even number of 4, at least to start off with in our talk here. And we're going to then combine those measures of 4 beats to a certain length, which is going to be our first form, is going to be the blues, as I mentioned, which is 12 bars long, 12 measures long. And then we're going to, for the blues, especially from a jazz point of view, we're going to repeat that form. So our form, in truth, is really a 24-bar form. In another truth would be that it's 2 times 12. So we're going to just do a little very defined length of time, the blues form, and you're all going to go, yeah, I've heard that before. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, why am I playing like a country western player? Just to play the blues in a straight ahead manner. And we're going to do it twice. Now, with a little bit of jazziness in it. Let the drums still play the same form. That was the 5th bar, 6th bar, 7th bar. And the last 2 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you have a number of ways to get through this structure we call a blues form. 12 bars long. That's essentially what it is. The melody is usually played twice when you have a melody for the blues. And that's where we get what I had alluded to before. Twice through a 12-bar blues is actually a blues form. So far, are you with me, Brandy?
I'm with you.
Back to the subject matter, form. So anyhow, we are going to just move a little bit past this into what I would consider a little bit harder to follow interpretation of that blues form. Because when we start to fill in some of the harmonic possibilities, and remember, these forms are empty. When you start with a form, like I'll write a tune based on a form. So the form is given, I have to come up with content during that, however long the form is, 12 bars, 24 bars, 32 bars, 48 bars, whatever it turns out to be. At least this is one way to go about it. You can establish any one part of a tune first, but you certainly can use the form as a starting point. So let's take one, Victor, from at a medium tempo, and I'm gonna start by you'll feel me stretching out there a little bit harmonically, And at which time maybe we could get into something where keep it straight for a second, but then I want you to show them what could happen with the drums as far as pushing and pulling that 12 bar, and then we're pushing and pulling together. And it can get a little oblique, a little hard to follow. We're not going to take it that far, and without a bass player, it would be a little bit of a challenge anyhow. But let's try one here in B flat. We were in G. I'm moving key, by the way, to B flat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So if you're listening for the rhythm, you probably heard a certain gravity, even when we started to stretch those melodies a little bit, a certain gravity that kind of brought us back pretty hard in your feel to where the beginning of the form was. Right? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yay! This is our first live audience in 27 weeks. 27 years. We've been at this a while. We've got 47 subscribers, and we feel we're doing real well. Now, a word that I like to kind of throw out there too, when this idea of form is to put the word recurring, and that's of course what we just did. And as you heard, the gallery here chimed in and say, "Yes, we follow you, Don." And so I think now we can move on to a little bit more complex form. But the concept is established. We play through the form, and usually the first time through the form is where the melody occurs. The melody is what would be the lyric, if you will. Now, everything we do is instrumental, so we're interpreting the words. And I know that makes it a little bit harder to follow, especially if you've memorized the words to some of these tunes or to any particular tune. That's, I think, the most intuitive way to follow a form. But we're going to kind of lay it out here for you. And a thing that I want to mention at this point is that when you're trying to understand, if you're giving jazz a shot and you're saying, hey, I want to figure this out, I want to have a better listening experience. This is going to sound like so rudimentary, but I'm going to go with it anyhow. Please start listening from the beginning. Don't walk in the middle of some giant tenor solo with the rhythm section going crazy, and they've escalated to a very high level of involvement within the form. Because even when that happens to me, I'll walk in the middle of a recording, I'll have something on or something, and even stuff that I'm sometimes familiar with. I mean, depending on how familiar, but I can be going like, man, what tune is this? I don't know what tune it is. This guy's squawking away, and it sounds great, but at the same time, it's out of nowhere. So I would strongly suggest that getting the information at the beginning of a jazz tune is very important to the listening experience. I know, again, this is level 1 stuff, but it's really, really important. I even have to remind myself of these things every once in a while, So I'm going to just pull off a tune here. Let's say Woody and You. This is what we call an AABA form. Those letters just simply represent 8 bars each. But the reason why the first 2 are called A sections is because, and you might guess this, they're the same. Except for right at the ending. The first A section will curl around and repeat the second A section. The second A section will not curl around and come back to its beginning, but it will move harmonically a little bit forward into what we call the B section, sometimes called the bridge. So, and then that's 8 bars. Then we follow it up with yet a third occurrence of a very similar or the same melody in the last 8 bars. So we got 8 bars plus 8 bars plus 8 bars plus 8 bars. Yeah, that's right. So, it's not rocket science.
No.
But you do have to pay attention, again, as things get harmonically more dense. So here's an AABA form, a tune called Woody and You. 2, 3, 4. So that was AABA. Hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Don,
Yes.
question from the
Here.
porch.
Quick question from the sound booth.
Can you play one all the way through AABA, but while you're playing, call A, and then A, and then B, and then A?
Okay, here it goes. 1, 2, it's Woody and You.
Hey!
beginning of the next recurring form where he would have said A, because that was the beginning. I'm going to just now take a little bit of soloing on that. Yeah, let's just keep it at that tempo, and we'll do that same thing.
Same thing.
Maybe we'll go twice through the form.
Okay.
I'll kind of paraphrase the melody first, and then we'll improvise one. But then we'll stop.
Okay.
Two, 1, 2, 3, 4. Twice through the tune, a little bit more content each time, but I think it's still there, right? If you listen to the melody first and get a little bit accustomed to what that sounds like, that's easier to follow the other parts. Am I right?
You're right.
I am?
Right.
Oh, good. I was hoping I was right. Back to the subject matter. Form. I'd like to do another AABA form. So in other words, this is lengthwise is identical, not time-wise, by the way, because time would, as you may have surmised and figured out, is that time is an expression, how long a form takes would be more of an expression of how fast each beat is coming. And then therefore how fast each measure is coming through, you know. And that would dictate then how long time-wise in minutes or seconds something is. But we're going to do another, as I mentioned, AABA form. Now this particular form that we're going to fill in, we're going to fill it in with the tune Impressions. This could also be filled in with the tune So What? And these two tunes have barely any written content within the form. It is a very simple melody, and it is an extremely simple chord progression. And first, we're going to go through it just completely rhythmically with this very basic, as I mentioned, content or harmonic form that's going to go against and with, I should say, complement the rhythmic form. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. followed by 8 bars, followed by a bridge, which is 8 bars long, and another A section, which is 8 bars long. The chord on this particular tune is merely a minor 7th chord or a minor chord of some kind for the A sections, and that same chord up a half step for the B sections. So it can't get that much more simple. The problem with simplicity is that it starts to all sound alike. So following the form on this tune, I have come to learn that people have a little bit of difficulty with when things get heated, because you start to go kind of a little bit blank on like, wait, what A section am I in? Because when you start the last A section, because it's just one chord, it's 3 A sections in a row, counting the first 2, because remember, these forms are recurring, very important. And so it's easy to kind of get lost in the first chord, which is D minor, and realize, oh gosh, where's the E flat minor come from? Where does that 1/2 step up come in? So keeping that form together is actually can be more of a challenge than an AAB form that has many more landmarks or road signs, i.e. more chords to flesh things out. But that being said, here's an example of the AABA form, kind of compressed because we're going to do it faster. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And A. Here comes B. And last A. So, AABA. I think we've pretty much nailed this idea of rhythmic form down for you. Once again, this goes out as hopefully a little bit of an aid in trying to listen for that rhythmic form. Anything else that we stuck into that form was just variable. The thing that I'm trying to sort of make you understand or help you to feel is this idea of the rhythmic form, because with that, if you start to understand the rhythmic form of this music and its recurrent nature, then you'll start to be able, your ear will start to be able to accept what any particular performer is sticking into that form. Yes. That's going to do it for this little program. Hope you enjoyed it. If you do, maybe make a little comment, and again, this was meant to help, and so if it does, we're going to do a couple more of these. We might do it on style. We might do it on what that style then consists of, both rhythmically and harmonically and melodically. So watch for it, and certainly keep watching for the performance episodes from Jazz at Noon in Linke's living room.